Hey, this is Marek Warszawski, Fresno Bee sports columnist, coming to you from a nearly deserted press box at Vaught Hemingway Stadium in Oxford, Mississippi, following Fresno State's 73-21 loss to the Rebels. Yes, I said 73-21. That is a pretty scary final score as far as Bulldog fans are concerned, and certainly it must remind a lot of them of last year's games against USC, Utah, and Nebraska, when Fresno State really wasn't competitive, except none of those teams scored 73 points. So in some respects, this is kind of a worse loss than those. In those games, Fresno pretty much stuck to Brian Burrell, with maybe Brandon Kennett getting a little bit of a mop-up duty. But this time, they kind of, once they made the switch over to Virgil from Zach Greenlee, Zach did not get back in the game. And the coaches said it wasn't because they thought Zach was playing poorly, but because they liked the spark that Chason provided, which makes a lot of sense. But it does go against a lot of one of the main things we heard from the coaching staff during fall camp is that the quarterback who makes the least mistakes, i.e. throws the fewest interceptions, is going to be the one to play, is going to be the one to start. And today the coaching staff stuck with Chason Virgil, even though he threw those two picks. Although Chason admitted after the game that he was a little bit nervous, he didn't look that way. He looked very poised and confident, very self-assured, which is kind of par for the course for him. Other thoughts I had is that, defense last week, against FCS team, Fresno State, I believe, didn't give up a play longer than 21 yards. Well, that didn't happen today. Ole Miss had plenty of speed. Treadwell, he was incredible. And Chad Kelly, the quarterback, he's a nephew of former Bills star Jim Kelly. He was very impressive. He finished 20 of 25 for 346 yards and 4 touchdowns. And early on, he was completing passes to well-covered receivers. After a while, though, some of those receivers started blowing the top off the Bulldogs' defense and were getting wide open. And, of course, that is something that we saw last year a lot. And we did see missed tackles, which is, something that we've seen in the last 2 years from the Bulldogs defense. But again, that I think the level of competition had something to do with that. This team, the Mississippi rolled out there today was about as fast a team, I think, as I've ever seen a Bulldogs squad play in all my years covering this program. So, yeah, in a lot of ways it was a disheartening, game for the Bulldogs. Nobody likes to lose by 53 points, and certainly it's going to raise a lot of questions among fans. Are we going to see more of the same? Is this just another example of how Fresno State can no longer, rise to the level of a Power 5 opponent under Coach Tim DeRuyter like it did under Coach Pat Hill? Certainly those are valid questions. For anyone who is expecting Fresno State to be a little more competitive in this game, certainly you're disappointed. The team was pretty bummed afterwards, a lot of long faces walking out of the locker room. So certainly a disappointing day for Fresno State. Not the way they wanted to, come out and show themselves here in SEC country. And we'll have to see next week if they can bounce back, or we're going to see another one of these lopsided defeats against a Power 5 team. I thought it was interesting that Coach DeRuyter said that he thought this team showed a little more fight, a little more poise than last year's team. And perhaps that's true, but the final score and kind of the way things ended up is going to be hard to kind of, maybe convince people of that. But I think if you look a little bit closer, maybe it wasn't as bad as it seemed, and the turnovers, made it look pretty bad. So anyway, those are my thoughts. Certainly the Bulldogs are probably back at Memphis or on their way, and back to the Smoky San Joaquin Valley, and I'll be heading back tomorrow. So that's all from Vaught Hemingway Stadium. Marek Warszawski signing out, and hope you have a good evening.